guys, welcome back to another video. And in this video I'm going to show you how you can implement um, OpenIDConnect on Axum, and then you would authenticate with an identity server. So since currently I don't have an identity server right now on my machine, or I don't even have an identity server outside, such as AWS Cognito or Azure Identity Server or something like that. So I will going to be running a self-hosted solution in order to demonstrate within this video for you. So, but first, I'm going to need to create a new Rust project. Well, let's just going to call this Axum OIDC YouTube. So from there, alright, so I'm going to put this folder here and I'm going to open it in Visual Studio Code. So now the identity server that is self-hosted I'm going to use here, it's going to be called Authentik. So you can go to Authentik and you can go to the GitHub repo of this project, and this project is a really nice one. Cool. So now I'm going to search for their Docker Compose file. So they do have a Docker Compose file somewhere, and it is at here. And so you can see that, upon first glance, you can see that first it needs a PostgreSQL database, and then it needs a Redis cache, and then it creates two instances, one instance of server and then another instance called worker. But on first glance you see that it is identically the same. It starts with this image that it is by default sets to ghcr.io go authentic server, and this guy, and it's the same for this guy right here, and it is with the tag. So by default it is 2024.4.1. Well, I'm just going to use the latest for now, or maybe I'll just use this tag just for to persist the versions. Next, we're going to see that this project uses Redis Alpine and also Postgres Alpine. So this guy used Postgres self, and well, for Redis I might just use Redis latest. And for server, well, I might to adjust this a little bit. You can see that at this point the user root and the Docker socket volume are optional, but well, I might as well just use this also. Alright, so let's get started. Right, so back in my VS Code, I'm just going to call this compose.infra.yaml. The reason for I'm calling this .infra is because my application will going to be persist on this on PostgreSQL also. So in theory, you can use your application and your identity server can use the same database, obviously, but then in practice people would use different database for different needs, meaning that my application should be using a dedicated database, and then the identity server should be using a dedicated database as well. But for the purpose of demonstration, I'm going to use this same PostgreSQL database. Alright, so let's write that compose file right now. So cool. So alright, so I was going to do a reference upon this guy, and then I'll just do some adjustments so that you can see what I'm doing. First, I'm going to need the version. I'm going to set it to 3.9. The name we're going to be infra, and then I'm going to be on the services side. So first, for services, I'm going to need the Postgres container. If I'm typing correctly, I'm going to set the container name to Postgres. Then I'm going to set the image to Postgres latest, because I want latest. Or yeah, maybe I'll just set it later because Postgres really has great backwards compatibility. So I don't think that putting latest have any issues with that. Next up is I need the environment. Well, I'm just going to skip the hub check for now, because it's waiting for self-check is really slow. But then since we're on our development machine, it's not really necessary to use a health check. But you can add it in if you wanted to. But I'm just going to omit that for brevity. So here in the environment, we're going to add in some environment variables. So here I'm going to paste this in. For this, I'm just going to set it to password. Set it to string. PG user, I'm going to set it to local because I want to use this database as use it for other purposes as well. And this database does not need to be only getting tied to the identity server, or in this case it's Authentik. But then Authentik might use its own database within our instance, so I might as well just create a new database right at starting point. So I might have to override the PostgreSQL entry point. That is, I'm going to call it sh-c, and I'm going to echo create db-o local Authentik. So I'm going to name our new database Authentik, and it's going to be created by user local, owns by local. I'm going to type it into docker into / docker entry point initdb -d, and the file name we're going to be initdb -sh. So in order to check for this, you can actually go for the Postgres image right there. So if you go for the Postgres image, you can click on this page. You can see that right on the bottom there, you can see that first it persists data at where the PostgreSQL data, and then it sort of like it mounts the entry point as docker entry point.sh, and then finally it runs Postgres. So on the last line of this entry point, we're going to call in docker entry point.sh, and we're going to call in Postgres here. So if you have a look into the docker entry point, you can see that what it does is that it, if I can show it for you, so here we have a lot of functions: docker initdb, process init files. All right, so here you can see that what it does is that it loops through each of the sh file within this folder. So right at starting point, it loops over each of the sh file and then execute it. So it looks for this folder right here, and then it loops each of these shell file inside there, and it executes it right there. So what I'm doing there is I append the create database statement inside of this initdb.sh file, and then finally I'm going to call in and I'm finally calling in this command. So this shell file actually does a lot of things under its hood, and finally I'm going to call in Postgres. So with this, I have effectively created a new database called Authentik inside of my instance right at first point. Now next up is that with this entry point, since I'm going to also use this with my Rust application, I'm going to expose it to a port, which is 5432. Oh, I don't need this to be string. Might as well just leave it as numbers. And I also want to persist the data, which I want to mount a volume, which is at /data. So this folder data, it does not exist yet, but when you type in like this, it will create a new one for you. So what I mean is that I'm effectively creating a folder called data, and then And then inside that data folder, I'm going to, it will automatically create a new folder called Postgres. And then this will going to be persisting data from var lib PostgreSQL data, in which I've already showed you previously. Next up is that with Postgres, I need to have a Redis container. So I might as well just copy this, strip out the health check. I don't need that. I don't even need the comment. Let's just set the container name to Redis. And there we go. It is at Redis Alpine. Well, I might as well just use latest. And volume, we're going to be /data/Redis add data. Cool, so now that is Redis done. Now I need to strip out some things from, so you can see that there are two containers here. One is for the server and one is for the worker. So if you already know about the Authentik structure, in which I can Google that for you, structure. So you can see that architecture. So you can see that there are two of these guys right here, the server and the server core, and also there's a background worker. But for demonstration purposes, I will compress these two containers into one, because I see that these two guys are using the same image, and I assume that these two guys are pretty much just copy paste, and then they've adjusted some variables down here. So now I can call it Authentik, container name Authentik, put it as a string. So here I'm going to take in its image. So I'm going to strip out this just for the simplicity's sake. Delete this part. And there we go. Now we have our image link, which is at this link, go Authentik server, and then the tag is 2024.4.1. Cool. Do I need to use it as latest? Well, maybe. I don't know. Okay, well, might as well just set it to latest. And then here I need to do some adjustments. That is, first we're going to so here you can see that we have two separate commands. We have command server and then command worker. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to override the entry point, and I'm going to do the same as our database above. I'm going to call in AK server and AK worker, so that these two guys, so these two commands can run in parallel. Cool. Next up is the environment. So here are the environment variables, and there you can see that it has some defaults that they provided for us. First is the Redis. Yes, I do use that. Then is the PostgreSQL host, but I'm going to set this as Postgres. The reason is that the host here is actually the URL that points to the database, and since within a Docker Compose stack, there is a sort of like a virtual network where each of the container has its address mapped to their name. So when when you are interacting with containerized environments such as this Compose stack right here, in order to connect to the PostgreSQL database within within that environment, you will connect to Postgres or Postgres and then 5432, and not all localhost. Yeah, so that's how you would connect that. So the user would going to be local, because that's our local, that's our username right here. And now we come to the part where we need to provide in the database. So the database here is called Authentik. So this will point to a database that we've created within this entry point. And now finally the password is going to be password, because I've set it to password. But there are there are two more environment variables that you might want to set. that if you go to the Authentik documentation, docs, you can see that this guy is an open source identity server. Um, we might as well just go straight into the Docker Compose installation, and then you can see that it has this secret key right here. I'm just going to set it as, let's just localhost. I'm going to set it like and paste it like 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 times localhost, 4 times the charm, maybe 3 times, but whatever. So now I'm going to put in this error reporting enabled equals to true, so that it does some error reporting. So now we come to the part where it says email configuration, which is optional but recommended. Well, since we don't have any email support, something like that, I'm not going to set it up, obviously. So now finally, configure for port 8044 or 443. So by default, if you can see in this Docker Compose file, you can see that this guy actually starts at 9000 and 9443. So 9000 is the HTTP unencrypted traffic, but for the sake of just demonstration and development, we don't need to use TLS for now. So I'll just expose the ports to 9000, and I'm going to set the volumes. Oh yeah. So we're going to come to this part where it says we're going to set the user equals to root and some volumes. So I'm going to copy this and paste this here. So we're going to mount in the Docker socket. It is completely optional, but I like things to be that way. So okay. So with this, I'm going to mount it to data Authentik / media certs and custom templates. Well, since we currently do not have any certs, we're just going to leave it there. Well, you can actually either put in certs if you wanted to, but currently I don't want to. Currently I don't have a certificate, so might as well just leave it there. So okay, so right at this point, we're going to need it to depends on Postgres and Redis. So it will wait for these 2 containers to start, and then this entire thing will start after that. But as an additional thing that I wanted to add here is I want to add something. I want to add it sort of like a GUI for Postgres. So I'm going to use pgadmin4. So I'm going to write in Postgres GUI, container name, Postgres GUI. The image we're going to be dpage at pgadmin4, and I'm just going to use the latest container image. Cool. So with that image, I'm going to set in some environment variable. So if I remember correctly, there are some environment variable that you are required to set. So if you go into pgadmin4 Docker, you go for the container deployment, you can see that there are some environment variables here. Yeah, and you can see right here. If I enable this just for easier for looking, or sorry for the flash bound right there, but this is required because this web page looks really dark. So I'm going to paste this email. This email I'm going to set in some arbitrary value like admin@local.com, which does not exist, but then who cares. Then I'm going to set in the default password, which will going to be also password. You can set this password whatever you want, because this is the password that you need to authenticate yourself inside of this GUI application. Finally, I'm going to expose this guy as port 5050 mapped to the A inside of this container, because if you have a look over here, that pgadmin enable TLS is that if I left it unset, the container will listen to port 80, or if it is set to any value, then it will set itself to 443, which it says right over here that default is 80 or 443 if TLS is enabled. So I'm going to put in 80 right here, and of course this guy being right there. Cool. So let me double check things real quick, and I think everything's fine now. Let's just start this guy up. So first I need to pull in, Postgres and Redis. I'll just wait for a little bit. So in the meantime, I'm going to start, creating a new Rust project. So I'm going to find cargo init. So does it work? It seems like everything's working. Let's just go to ArpStack, see if it's working. Check the logs. It seems everything okay. Check the Postgres logs. It seems everything is okay. I've also created a database, which is nice. Servers stop, ready for startup. Listing on PostgreSQL select ID. All right, seems working fine. How about this GUI? This GUI looking fine. This guy, all right, this guy is working. Cool. So everything's working fine. All right, so I've created a new application here. So let's just go to the main file. So all right, so in order for working with Axum, right? So Axum requires you to be working on an async runtime, which is called Tokyo. And so, well, let's just wait. What is this? What are these targets? Well, I might as well just delete it off. I don't know what it's doing here, but well, who cares at this point? Might just make a cargo run. Hello world, everything's working fine. Awesome. So now I need to add in an async runtime. Well, currently we don't need this for now. I'll just make this window a little bit bigger. Wait, okay. So async runtime. I'm just putting some comment here. I'm going to set Tokyo equals to version, and I'm setting to a wildcard. But if I hover this and I click on a version, it will automatically set itself to the to the latest version. I'm going to use the macro features and the RT multi-thread feature for the multi-thread. So if I go into here and I go to Tokyo docs rs Tokyo, there we go. Going to Tokyo, and here you can see that if you scroll down, you can see that here are the list of the feature flags. So I see that there's a lot of people using full, but I don't want to use full. So you can have two of these options. You can enable RT, which enables Tokyo Spawn, the current thread schedule, and non-scheduled utilities. But I want to use the multi-thread because it enables the work stealing schedule, which is different from the RT. And also I want to enable macro, which it enables in Tokyo main and Tokyo test. Cool. Let's return back to this guy. I'm going to main, and I'm going to make this Tokyo main so that this entire thing becomes an async function. Cool. So now from the first start, I'm going to need something. I'm going to need tracing and logging. So I'm going to add in tracing and logging. So I'm going to need tracing subscriber equals to version. I'm going to save it, and I'm going to use this version. Next, I'm going to feature. I'm going to use the env filter. And as always, you can always check the documentation for each of the crate. So in order to see the feature flags, you can look into the documentation, or you can go into this flag right here, feature flags. You can see that there are a lot of options. So we have small vec, we have FMT, NC, tracing log. So by default, it enables small vec, FMT, NC tracing log. But there's this feature right here, env filter, which enables all these other features right here. But what it does is that it gives you an env filter layer, so that you can set a default to sort of like each of the library logging level, something like that, if that's how I understand it. But let's just So since I have this NV filter, I'm going to need tracing as well. Tracing version store. I'm putting the 0.1.40. So with that, I can now start writing some tracing logic here. First, I'm going to tracing subscriber. I'm going to first registry and call .width. So now with this layer, I'm going to mount in the NV layer. Try on default NV. So this will try to read from the default env, which is, if I remember correctly, it is Rust log equals debug, something like that. Default env, which is Rust log. Yeah, there you can see. So it means that if I run this code with Rust log equals to debug, this entire logging mechanism will change. So I can do an unwrap or. So this is going to be Axum OIDC, which is the name of our package. Example equals to debug, and finally Axum rejection equals to trace dot into. I'll type in dot into in order to convert it into a string. So finally, I'm going to mount it with a width, and if I fmt, there's a layer function which I can use with time, and I can use system time in order to, our log will have time, attached to each of the line. Finally, I'm going to call it .init semicolon, and that's our, and that is our tracing, and that's our tracing mechanism implemented. Now, there's another thing that I want to add, is that I want to add panic or a panic set hook. So what this set hook does is that it is a hook that you can mount a function as a hook, so that the panic will call that hook before your entire app crashes. So with this panic set hook, I'm going to so this set hook, what it expects you to pass in is that it expects you to pass in a box, and inside there it needs a function, and this function will pass in it will pass in the panic info, and then and then this function returns nothing. So meaning that you need to create a box, and then inside the box you need to create a void function or a void closure in which it will pass in the panic info inside of that function. So here you can see that it creates a new custom hook, and then it pretty much just uses the hook. So now from there, I'm going to add in a box, new, and then I'm going to add in closure. Inside here is the panic info. Here you can see there's a panic info. Here I'm going to use the error from tracing, and then I'm going to say panic beautify formatting, and then new line semicolon, and there you go. That's how you set a hook to panic, so that before your application crashes, it will emit an error log, so that you can easily have a look at it inside the console. So now what I need is, I need to have two things in order to for making this to work. First is that I need a database, and then secondly, or more like, I need a database connection, and secondly I need an OpenIDConnect client. So first, let's just go ahead and add in the database. So database connection, I'm going to use SQLX, and then we're going to be version of wildcard. I'm just going to use the feature called macros, or more like well, in order to know what features that I need to go ahead and go to docs. I can go right here. Cool. I can go to the docs and waiting for it to load. Alright, I can see the feature flags. So here in the feature flags, you can see that I can add in, so by default it adds in macro migrate, which is nice, but I need more. I need runtime Tokyo, which is right there. Next, I need Postgres. Next, I need TLS RosLS because I trust RosLS rather than OpenSSL. So with these three features, so these three features, I think it is enough for me to actually do something now. So within this source folder, I'm going to add in another file, another module called db, and I'm going to write in pub async fn connect db pg pool. So this guy will return the pg pool. You might be wondering, okay, so why don't you just return a result to pg pool? Because I'll do something that I think you might understand why. So I'm going to make a loop, and I'm going to match the pg pool options, new max connections. I'm going to set max connections to 10. Finally, I'm going to make it to connect to some URL, and then .await. So it will going to give me back two things. One is that the DB, and then if I receive the DB, and I'm going to break the loop and then returns DB, or else I'm going to emit some error again. But this time I'm going to make it sleep for 5 seconds, and then retries it again. So from here, I'm just going to say error. I'm going to take it from tracing, database connection error. This will going to be sending back. This is difficult. This will going to logs out the error to the console, and then finally I'm going to set sleep duration seconds from seconds 5. .await. That is the main point. So now, okay, this has to be error. Alright, so now it says that it cannot find URL because I haven't tried it yet. So I want to add in the mechanism in order to read environment variables. So that would only be, I should not be in that one. So I'm going to add in nv.rs. So what this does is that So what this file does is that it will read environment variables from the .env file, and then converts it to appropriate types that I want it to, that I want it to be, that I want to be using with it. So with this, I'm just going to start writing a function called pub fn database URL. And it will going to be returning back a string. With this, I'm going to set var, and there is actually a variable built into a standard which reads the environment variable, which database URL, and then expects it to be erroring now. So database URL must be set. So there we go. That is the database environment variable. So now I can just call database URL like that. It is emitting some warnings here, in which I'll disable it now. We'll enable it later on when we've done with this. When we've done with this code. The unused imports. Wait, what? Unused imports. There we go. All right. So with that, we have connectDB function, and let's create a new database. Let db equals to connect db.await. I haven't imported yet. .await. There we go. So now I get a pool Postgres here. Might as well just create a .env file at this point. Database URL equals to Postgres at local. Password is password. Location, yes, localhost 5432. The database name is called, let's just call it Axum OIDC YouTube. There we go. So there's another note that I wanted to add is that you should add in a tool called SQLite CLI. So what this tool does is that if you sit within the project that has this environment variable, you can just write in this command database SQLite database create, which creates a database for you, so you don't have to trying to get inside of the database and then call in your create DB or create database, create table, something like that. When you call in SQLite create database create like this, it will go into your database and then create a database for you. That's how I call it. So now from here I'm going to, alright, so if I go into localhost 5050, which is the address of the PG admin that I've previously mentioned, I'm going to log in with admin@local.com with password, and then when I get inside here, I'm going to add in some settings. I'm going to register a server. I'm just going to call this Docker. The connection we're going to be since our Postgres GUI is currently living within this Docker Compose stack. In order to access to this Postgres container here, it's not localhost. In here, it's not localhost. It's Postgres 5432. Maintain the database. I'm going to set it to local because that's the admin that I want to work with. The username is local, and the password is going to be password. Do I want to save the password? Yep, sure. And I click on save, and now it connects. Now you can see that there's a list of database, and now here we can see there's the Authentik database. Let's have a look over that. It will has a lot of tables in which we shouldn't touch it, but there we go. You can see it right there. So you can see that, oh, okay, something's happened with this guy. Well, maybe it's dark mode forever for this guy now. So I have access to the Postgres. I also have access to the local database. So now I can now create a new database using the SQLite CLI that I've told you to install to the machine. So I'm going to call SQLite database create. There we go. So it has created successfully, but it does not say us anything. But it is successful. Yep, there we go. You can see that there's our Axum OIDC YouTube database right there. So cool. Let's just set up some migrations then. I'm going to set up my SQLite migration. Add, and then I'm calling dash help. Migrate help. Yeah. So there are multiple options that you can use within the SQLite migrate. Add options here. You can have a list of options, and you can see that there's a -r, meaning that this will create a pair of up and down migration files, which it will create an up.sql and down.sql. And then it has a -s and -t. So by default, -t is timestamp, meaning that it will use the timestamp .up.sql, or if you want to use sequential, then it will going to be 0001 up .up.sql. So that's how it works. So let's just create our migration folder. SQLite migrate add -r -s and then initial. And you can see that we have our migrations right here. Cool. So now in our we will write our SQL scripts later on. So here we have our database connection. Now we're going to need to do some migration commands. First you can SQLite migrate, and there we go. You can just add in this migrate, and that's pretty much it. I do remember that it supports a wait, something like that, but it should work right here, but it does not, surprisingly. I'm just going to test this out. Let test equals SQLite migrate. It returns back for us migrator, which I don't know what that has. So apply default migrator, migration source migrate. Does it have something? Oh, .run. Oh yeah, .run. Reference to DB, and then dash await, and then yeah, finally, and I get some result here, and and I might call in dot expect call cannot migrations fail, something like that. Cool. So now that with that is done, so I've done with the migration, so that I don't have to so that right on first start, when this application start, it applies all the migrations. So cool. Now I need to get started with Axum, right? So I needed to get this entire server up and running, but currently we don't have any server. So I need to add in backend. It's going to be Axum equals to version, which is star, and then use the latest version. And I also wanted to add in Serde as well. Serialization. Serde equals to version star, and then features we're going to be derived. We're going to use the derive feature. I'm going to set this to the latest version. Awesome, cool. So now from here, I'm going to start with Axum. So the most bare bone of Axum, it needs to start is it needs some few lines of code. First, you need to create the router. Let router equals to router new, and then that's pretty much it. Then I'm going to need to create in I'm going to call this function called Axum serve, and it requires a TCP listener. So this is going to be TCP listener. We're going to use the Tokyo equivalent. I'm going to bind it to an address. The address is going to be a format. We're going 0.0.0.0. We're going to run it at port 8000, and then going to .await .unwrap. And then finally mix service is going to be a router, and then finally .await .expect server crashed. Finally, we're going to remove this line, and there we go. So that is, oh yeah, I forgot. This guy requires you to use toString. Is it necessary? Oh yeah, toString. Oh yeah, cool. So that does apply. Okay. So I've used toString, but I wanted to add something into this. That is, I want to add the customization to the host and the port. I need to add it right here. So first in database. Finally, we're going to add in backend. First, I'm going to need a host equals localhost, and I wanted to default to localhost, like so. And finally, I want the port 8000. I also wanted to default to 8000. There you go. So from there, I can go on to this file right here, popfn host equals on function host outputs a string. We use var host expects host must be set, and there you go. That's the host. And now we need a port. So port equals to U16. So now we also need the var, of course, but then it's a bit different. That first I need to require the port to be exist. Then I'm going to write in an unwrap or. Oh yeah, this part. I forgot this part. This has to be unwrap or localhost dot into. Cool. So now unwrap or will return an 8000 string. And finally, I wanted to parse. After parse, I wanted to expect that port must be an U16. There we go. So now we have the host and the port. Now we're going to let host equals to host. Let port equals to port. And finally, info. We want to do some logging. We want to say that server started on host and port, HTTP host, and finally port, like that. So with this, I can actually use the format on here. Format semicolon port. There we go. That's how you do it. Right. So with this, I think it is enough for, yeah, it is enough for the server to run, but we need to at least, spit out something hello world, something like that. So I need to add in hello. It outputs a router. Inside, we're going to have a handler error, a handler function. It will um, return a string. Should it return a string? I don't know. Well, maybe it'll work. And here I'm going to say hello into, and finally I'm going to mount it at new route slash get handler. So it does work. Nice. Wait, but how about a ref static stir? Ref static stir. So I don't need this into anymore. Does that work? Yeah, that does work. Oh, okay. So it seems like Axum impl into response does implement for a reference static stir. So I think that works. That works as well. So I might have to merge it here. Hello, and that's pretty much it. Well, let's just start the server. Cargo run. Right. Let's just wait for our project to build, and then let's just see the logs, see what is happening. Database URL must be set, not present. Oh, all right. So that's quite a bummer. That we haven't set the database URL for whatever reason. Do I have to wait? Do I have to what is it? Env stud env. Well, I might as well just use another page for this. Well, I might just want to use something called .nv, which does all these things for me. 0.15.7. Cool. Now I'm going to change it to use .nv var. There we go. So now everything will work. Yep, there we go. It works. So now if I go here and it says hello, well, that's really nice. Cool. Awesome. Now so that our entire thing works. Cool. So now we will start implementing the OpenIDConnect with our identity server that we've previously just created. Now let's just have a look over to the PXE code challenge flow diagram just to see how it works. So if you look into this diagram here, you can see that we have our app and our API, and our API right there. So the PXE code challenge flow is really designed for clients and not for backends such as Axum like this, but you can actually still implement PXE code challenge for our backend. It's just that it's it's a bit too overkill because normally PXE code challenge flow really works for client because there's a slight difference between the normal traditional authorization code flow versus the PXE flow here. That is the auth code flow requires you to have both the client ID and the client secret, but with PXE you don't have to use the client secret anymore. So that's increased security. So the difference is that previously we need to have sorry about that. And I've just received a call or something like that. No, all right, so let's just get back to our flow. All right. Well, sorry for the phone call. Cool. So here you can see that we have uh, normally this is our API, right? So this is normally where Axum lives. This is your API. But then what I'm implementing here is I am treating as if we are here. Well, it's a bit too overkill, because normally when you use a backend and you want to interact with an identity server, you don't need much security, because all of the private secret keys you can sort into the database. But then there are certain flows that you might want to do. Let's just say um, you let's just say that you want to retrieve user info from that identity server, and then you want to create a local user onto your application. Well, you can do that, but that's really killing the point of having an identity server. Is that the identity server is a centralized user identity provider. That's how I explain it to be, so that if you have multiple apps within your ecosystem, and it all uses the same identity server, the user can just log in into one server, and well, the user can just log in into this centralized identity server, and then they can automatically logs in into all of the apps. So that's the point of an identity server. So what I'm trying to do here in this video is that I'm trying to demonstrate how you can do this in the backend. But then I will also integrate in Swagger and show you that how OpenID Connect is being implemented in the real world, like in practice. But also, well, if you wanted to learn about Rust and Axum and how you can do OpenID Connect with Axum, then yeah, of course, this video is it's pretty beneficial for you. But then but then this is the actual the flow, the in practice real life website right here, is that you will have a client that interacts with this OpenID Connect identity server right here. So it's the job of the front end guy with the identity server, and it's not your responsibility. And so their only responsibility is that, well, your only responsibility is that you are here, you receive the access token, you use this access token, and you try to talk to this identity server. You retrieve the user info in order to do some authenticating thing right there, and then you would go back with the response. So that's the idea. But we're just going to implement it anyway. Right. So with all these out of the way, so with this, I'm going to I'm going to set in some extra environment variable here. First, I'm going to call it put a comment, say OIDC, and then issue URL equals to string, and then next we are going to need client ID equals to empty string. Of course, finally we need a redirect URL, which is also an empty string. And now let's just create our first domain. I'm just going to, the way that I call a domain is that I always structure my backend code so that it looks kind of like this. Is that I want to package things into modules, right? And so you can have all your things within one module, and then you can reuse it. So that's the idea. I wanted to implement something like this. So we're going to have so let's just, so you can see there's an example that says here we have a cats module, like a cats domain, and there's the DTO, which is the request module, the interface, which is the base model, and we can have controller, which is the routes, the module, which is the mod.rs file that we're currently having, and there's a service. We don't need a service, because the purpose of a service within a domain is when we're interacting with a SQL database, you would want to handle all the errors, all of the SQL errors within the service layer, so that let's just say that the SQL strings is incorrect, and then there are other SQL error types, but But when it comes to Rust, you don't have to actually do that. You can do all of the error handling inside of the enum error that we're going to to add in later on. So you honestly you don't need this entire service right here. What you only need is you need the controller and the model, and that's pretty much it. So let's implement that. First, I'm going to implement an auth module. I'm going to call it modelize, and here I'm going to register to the main function, and then from here. So here is the mod, and now I'm going to need to implement the routes. So I'm going to write in routes, routes.rs, and then from here I'm going to also assign it to mod routes. So here I'm having the routes, and now I'm going to start implementing. But of course, firstly we're going to need our harmonic ladder. I really don't like this name as well. I'm just going to call it as controller, and I'm going to make it a folder. So from here I'm going to write controller mod.rs. There we go, pop mod controller. Then next up I'm going to create an utils folder, mod.rs. So with this utils folder, I'm going to create another file called OIDC. So this file we're going to be handling the creation of a new OIDC client, which I am going to import in the authentication library now. Authentication. And now here I'm going to write in there's a library called OpenIDConnect, and it is version 350. There we go. Cool. So with that, and I'm just going to wait until it finishes imports. Well, might as well just work on it. Pub fn new OIDC client. It returns back for me a core client. Core client. There we go. This function will be an async, and I'm going to set it as to do. Cool. So now, if you go into the OpenIDConnect Rust library here, you can see that the author actually provides you with an example that you can get started with implementing this. But of course, I'm going to do some adjustments to this so that it works well within our Axum application. So first off, we're going to need to create a provider metadata. So let's just do that now. Provider metadata equals to. I'm just going to set it in loop so that this guy keeps retrying if it hasn't connect to the identity provider server yet. So here we're going to make a match on the core provider metadata. I'm going to use discover, but in this example you can see that he's using discover, but we're going to use discover async. This discover async is it will going to be using an HTTP client here. So here you can see that in the normal discover he's using HTTP client, but here since we're async we're going to use an async HTTP client. I'm going to delete the rest of it, and then we're going to need the issuer URL, and of course as always I'm going to go to the env file, going to pub fn issuer URL. It returns back from the issuer URL, and then it will be issuer URL new, and I'm going to read it from the environment variables. So it's going to be issuer URL, and then I expect the issuer URL must be set, and then expect that issuer URL must be an URL, because this is why. Because this is actually why, is your URL is actually returning a result of URL parse error. So you can see it right there, that if it tries to parse the string that you provide for them, and if it is an URL, then sure, it passes. But then if it is not an URL, then it will throw us an error. So this is what I really like about Rust, is that it is really strict, and it makes your application really error prone. Next up is we need to read the client ID. So pub fn client ID. The reason why I'm writing everything inside of this single file is that other people, when they are when they go into our application, they can just open up this nv.rs file, and then they can know exactly what environment variables that this application requires. So with this client ID, we're going to add in client ID. Next, client ID, new. This client ID does not require any parsing, so we're going to just read the client ID and then expect that it must be set. There we go. Finally, pub fn redirect URL. So finally, redirect URL, new. Since this is also requires to be an URL, it also does require parsing. So yeah, expect. So first we're going to expect this guy to be set. Then finally, we're going to be expect that redirect URL must be an URL. Of course, it has to be an URL. So from there, I can have the issue URL, import it, set it as a function, and then .await. And with this, we have two of these variants here. Let's just handle it. Okay, so first is the metadata. So we're going to break out of this loop and return back metadata. And finally, the error. The error, I'm also going to have it as error, and then error from tracing, discovery error, return back the error as formatted nicely, and then finally finally we are going to sleep, as you would expect. I like sleeping, but oh well. From sex, sorry about that, 10 .await, and there we go. So now we have the provider metadata already now. So finally, we're going to return the core client from provide metadata, client ID, import client ID. Finally, client secret, I'm going to set it to none. The reason is that in the from provider metadata method of this client, you can see that the client secret is actually accepting an option, because Pixie code challenge flow is, well, it only requires the client ID to be exist and not the client secret. So I can just set it to none. Though despite that, here you can see that our author set this to some, and which he also added the client secret there, but we don't need that. So finally, we're going to need to set the redirect URL. I'm going to import it, make it as a function, and there we go. So now this function is done. So in order to actually letting the routes receiving the context, there is a term in Axum called state. So I'm just going to create a new state here, pub struct state, struct app state. So from here I'm going to derive clone, because it requires cloning. So firstly, it's going to has one field called db, which is pgpool. Since pgpool is an arc, so an arc is a smart pointer that it is a smart pointer that it is available on multi-thread, which is nice. It is available multi-thread, and it prevents expensive copying, which in this case we are having a clone here. So if this app state ever gets cloned, the actual value of this DB field is actually just a pointer. It's nothing more. Next up is we're going to be pub OIDC, which is going to be an arc. We're going to use an arc on the core client, because if you have a look over here, the core client is actually a client, and then you can see the client ID is a string, client secret is an option string, but it's still string. Issue URL is a string. This is a full-blown set. This is a full-blown vect. You can see right there. And here in the client, it's no different. Auth URL, auth type, token URL, redirect. All of these are strings, right? So in order to prevent expensive copying, I use an arc. From there, I will declare a state. I will declare a state right here. So I'm going to write new state. Here we're going to have app state. Oh wait, of course we need to create on our OpenIDConnect client first. So it's going to be new OIDC client import .await. So now we have our client, and then let OIDC equals to arc new OIDC. Cool. Now with the app state, we can just get in DB and OIDC, and that's pretty much it. So now it says that mismatch type expected this found app state, because here we need to add an app state. Now that all of our function that router functions that wraps over a handler like this, it needs to return a router app state, so that this entire thing can work. Now I'm going to get back to our auth module. Now I need to create so with that utility done, now we're going to get to the controller. Now we're going to create a new login function, login.rs. Yeah, but first we need to create a new error type. So I'm going to write an error .rs in order to, because right on this point onwards, there are a lot of errors that we need to handle. So we need an error type, not error, and now we are going to need a new crate that is error handling, and now we're going to need this error, so that it converts library's errors into our errors, so that we can handle it the way we wanted it to. So I'm going to use this version, and then with this I'm going to create a new error called create our own error enum called pub enum error, and then it will going to be deriving debug and error, and then finally we're going to make it import into response, so that it is compatible with Axum into response, and I'm going to set it to do, because I haven't had any errors yet in order to implement. So so let's just get to the login function. So first off, we're going to need to create a function that wraps over to the handler, and it returns the route. So now we're going to write pub fn login. Is this within the login? Yep, it is in the login. Okay, cool. Router app state, and then from here we're going to write an async fn handler function. This guy returns back I need to work on that. Wait, hold on. So in order to actually make this returning the error this returning part a much bit easier, that I'm going to add in a web.rs. What this does is that it is a standardized it's sort of like it makes our response to respond within a structure. So what I wanted to do is I want to have sort of like a structure, a JSON structure like this. We have code. We have code. We have message. We have data, and then finally we have error. So that's the idea. So now we're going to need to create a new struct, that is pub struct web. With this, I'm going to make it derive serialized, and from here I'm going to make it first is the status code, then is the message, then is the data, which is a type value, but I haven't had any value to put it inside of this struct yet. So I'm going to import it later on. So this value it should be coming from JSON, and since status code cannot be converted into Serde cannot serialize status code, so we need to have an external Serde extension for that. Next up is I want the error is to also be a string. Here you can see that first we don't have the value, and secondly the status code is not cannot be serializable. So we are going to add 2 crates for that. So now we're going to have Serde. We're going to have Serde JSON goes to version like this. Does it work? Yep. Wait, no. So Serde JSON with an underscore. This version, right? Next up is HTTP Serde is and then 2.1.0. So this HTTP Serde makes status code actually being serializable. So first we're going to import this value from Serde JSON, and finally it says that status code serialized has not been implemented. So in order to do that, we're going to add in an extension with equals to status code imported. There we go. So now the error is gone. Cool. Now let's next move on. Let's move on to the web section. First we're going to call it input web, and then we're going to create a new function. This function actually returns in response, which I'm going to get screamed at by Clippy for this. So it's not that type. Response. I want to import this type. Response. I want to import here. Okay. So alright. So with this new function, I'm going to add. So I'm going to add in 2 or 4 parameters. First is the code, which is the status code. Then we're going to do message, which is an impl string, impl toString. Next is the data, which implements serialize. Then we have the error, impl toString as well. So this is going to be logging out the actual error that occurs, and this message is pretty much sort of like the title, so that when this entire structure gets sent back to the client can use the message as sort of like the title for their notification, and then they can add in this error here as the actual error, so that their notification can be they can have more details upon what's happening here. So cool. So what does this returns to? It returns code, and then it returns JSON, which comes from Axum JSON, and then finally web, which requires some fields with code, message. Here we're going to string because it implements toString. So therefore, we have a toString there. Next is the data. We're going to add in JSON. It will going to be reference to data. Finally, error, which is error.toString. Finally, we're going to add in into response, just so that this entire thing converts into an into response. And of course, we're going to silence this warning right here because it is screaming something else. I'm going to add Clippy and then new red no self in order to not making it warning again. Cool. Next up is I'm going to add in some functions within this web. So first I'm going to add in pub fn OK. So this sort of like it just returns back to the client with a status code of OK, and then with additional data that you wanted to add extra in. So data import serialize and then response. It returns back response like this, and then it pretty much just web new, and we have status code OK, message, data, error has nothing. Cool. Next is the created message, data, response, web new, and then codes with status code created. Then error has nothing. Cool. Next up is I want no content. Right, no content. No content. I don't know if this no content is actually an error or not. Well, I'll just have to look up that thing again. Wait, hold on. I can have a look. So no content. No content is 204, which means that it is not an error. So I can just use it as like above. I'm going to accept in some data, and I'm going to return back response. Web new. Now we have new, and then we have status code no content. Next message, data, and then error which is nothing. Cool, no content. Next is unauthorized. Which I require message, and then I require error. Cool. Response. Why does it keep on recommending the original response here? Why is it not that below guy? I just do not understand about that. So code will be status code unauthorized. Message, data, JSON no. Any error, there's going to be error. Cool. So now I'm going to copy paste this. Next up is forbidden. Just in case. Forbidden. What? There we go, forbidden. Next up is conflict. There we go. And now finally, now next up is bad request. Bad request. Bad request. There we go. Next up is not found. Not found. Not found. There we go. Finally, internal error. Yep, internal error. That's the most important thing. Yeah, there we go. So that's that's done with the web, and now I'm going to type def in our main function that I wanted to type def it into web result, which is equal to result response coming from Axum, yeah, and finally error coming from our error crate. Cool. So now let's just return back to our login file. So alright, so what I've done is that I finally write something like this web result, and I can call in, you know, OK, and then web create web, and then OK, and then, you know, login success, and then OK, something like that. Yep, you understand the point. Finally, I wanted to set this to router new route. It will live at login, and we'll get handler, and there it is. So that works. But of course, this is not, we're not done with anything of this yet. So now we need to get the app state. So the way that you do it is you do the app state like this, then state, set up state. So what I'm doing here is that I am destructuring the state of, this handler can receive the state from this main function right here. So in main function you can see the router and you can see that this Swift state. So this state we're going to be copied into all of the routes that you assign to this, to this upper route, to this topmost level router right here. So I can retrieve that by calling state and then app state, and then destructure and then getting these values out, so that I can actually access both the database and the OpenIDConnect client right here. So cool. Now let's just go back to this section right here. So I've already done the create metadata, and I've also done the client. Now let's start with implementing the flow. So we're going to implement from this part to this part. So this is it. This entire section is going to be living within this login handler right here, which it occupies from this number 1 to this number 4. So this is the entire, so this is the entire flow of the login handler. And the rest we're going to be handled by the callback layer. Well, for callback handler, yeah. Cool. So now let's just I can pretty much just look at this and I can implement it myself. First, we're going to need a code verifier and code challenge. So you're going to need a PXE code challenge, and then new from SHA-256, and then this guy will return 2 variables. One is code challenge, and then second is a code verifier. Cool. Let code challenge, and next is code verifier. There we go. So that is done. Next is we need to create a redirect URL, or well, maybe you can just pretty much just go back here and reference this part. But here I will explain this part for you, and I'll code along with this. So first we're going to need the OIDC, and then we're going to need to call the authorized URL. First we're going to need to provide the flow. So the core authentication flow, we're going to be authorization code. Next is the state function, which we're going to provide in the CSRF token and the new random. So new random here is a function. We are providing a function, a state function that sort of like generates a state for this authorized URL to use. Next up is we're going to provide in the nonce function, which is going to be nonce and then new random, delete the last brackets, and there we go. We now currently have the authorized URL, but we need to add some scopes. So here the example says that he's adding a scope for read and write, but when I use with Authentik, I normally use it like this. I want to add scopes, and then inside scopes it expects an array. So it's not really an array, but so when you go into the add scopes here, you can see that the scopes accepts a type of I, and this I here is an iterator, which each item should be a scope. So here we have this array over here. So this array here is it does implements iterator, and each item within this array you can add in scope and add in new, and then I can write in OpenID. So I want to use the OpenID scope. Next is I want to use the email scope, or well, first profile scope. Next up is scope new, and then profile now email scope into. So that's I've done with the add scopes, and now finally I can set the PXE challenge. Oh wait, well, before the PXE challenge, I need to add in some extra prompt that consent. Wait, no. Consent. There we go. So so I want to add in something extra. That is, I want to add in support for. I want to add in scope called offline access because I want to retrieve the refresh token. So if you go into the Authentik docs, so Authentik refresh token, you can see that if you want to retrieve the refresh token, you'd see that starting from 24.2, this requires the offline scope. And since I've added in this offline scope, you need to add in. And so this is important. You need to add in the card off prompt to consent. This is important if only if you require offline access. So right there. So finally, I can call in .url. So this .url. So this .url returns three things. It returns URL, cserf token, and nonce. So right here, I'm going to call in let auth URL. So this is the URL that you need to redirect your client into. Next up is the CSRF token. Finally, is nonce equals to. There we go. So now we can have these three variables. And now, here in the docs, they told us that this is the URL you should redirect to your user to in order to trigger the authorization process. But before we do that, we need to store these variables into the database. We need to store the cserf token, the nonce, and the code verifier. So in order to keep that, we need to work with our database. So now I'm going to go into this update SQL and I'm going to create a table. Create table, OIDC state. I'm going to first I'm going to store in the cserf token, CSRF token as the primary key, but of course I'm going to set it to varchar 50. Oh no, just 20. Varchar 20, and I wanted to set the primary key. Next up is I want to store in the code verifier. Varchar. I don't know how long this script goes, but I assume that 25 is enough. Not null. And then finally we have the nonce, which is also varchar of 25. Not null. Not null is important because a SQLX will scream at me for not doing this. Finally, I'm going to add in the down SQL file, which pretty much just drop table. Now let's just test out if the database works. So I'm just going to say SQLX migrate run. One migration one was previously applied, but it has been modified. Okay, so I need to revert it. Table OIDC does not exist. Wow. Okay, so I need to reset the database because let's just do a database reset. Database reset. Yep. It will say something error out, and then you would have to you force it to reset. So I'm just gonna call .help, which it has a -f. I'm going -f. Yes. Cool. Now it has reset, and now it seems like I have. If I check in the types, I think it has been applied. Yeah, there you go. You have OIDC state right here. If I check the SQL, okay, so it has been applied, which is really nice. Cool. So now I can persist my data into the database. Now I can close this down, make this large. Cool. Now I can call in SQLX. SQLX query. I'm going to use the macro version because it provides me with compile time type checking. So I'm going to write in insert into OIDC state. Tab inside. We're going to I'm going to put it right here. So we're going to have CSRF token. Next is code verifier. and then finally nonce. Then finally values. First $1, $2, $3. So this is for the fact that we're going to provide in the parameters further on. I can just I can just do it like this. First is we're going to need the CSR token. So I'm just going to write let equals to CSRF token secret to string. I'm going to copy this entire thing first, and then I'm going to have the secondly is the code verifier. Code verifier, copy the entire thing, semicolon. Finally is nonce. Copy the entire thing. Cool. Now finally expected semicolon, but I'm going to call an execute. Reference to db dot await, and then emit some error. So you haven't seen any errors that coming out of this. This is because the entire SQL string here that I've written is correct. If I add in the 1, it will error out. So this is false. But if I save it, it is fine. It does this very cool compile times SQL string checking, which is really nice. So now it asking that I haven't support the SQLX error type yet, so that it does not want to return. So I'm going to go for the error, and then I'm going to say database, which first I need to declare it here. Database error. I'm going to set it 0 like this. It is coming from SQLX error like that. Now I need to do some proper checking. Match self, field match arms. I'm going to delete the to do because I don't need that anymore. What should I return? Well, back request. Yep, just back request. Let's just blame it to the users. I don't even know what to do right now. So back request provided database error. Provided query is not is invalid, which is nice. Cool. So now what I can do is I can emit I can actually emit an error message here. Or I should say, well, I do not do that. Or should I? Yeah. Well, I should do that. So I want to make this. I'm going to emit the error into the console log, but I need to emit it right here. Database error, and then it was going to be e. It was going to be e dot. Is this enough? All right, so that is enough. I don't have to do a toString from here, which is nice. Okay, cool. So now our error here is gone. We have inserted into the OIDC state into the database, which is okay. And now finally we need to redirect it to our users. I need to go for redirect. To and then auth URL aster into response, and that's it. So this is how you finish with your login handler. But first we need to actually set up the identity server in order to make this work. So now here in my Docker, I can go for Authentik. Oh wait, nah. Well, not that page, but this one. There we go. So the default authentication flow here is you have to enter the email or username. But here's the thing. This is not the page that you create a new user, or like you create the initial user. It's actually here. You have to delete this default authentication flow. You're going to go for the initial setup page, or like where is it? if I remember correctly, well, I'm just going to provide in some variables here. So it will say it's invalid password, but then you need to get to the initial setup. Initial setup. Yep, there we go. So you have to provide an initial setup, and then with the next parameter here. So I'm going to add in my email, my fake email, some password, the repeat password, and then boom. After that, I've successfully authenticated with Authentik. Now I'm going to create a new application. So I'm going to need to disable. Is there actually any way to disable this? Localhost 9000 not invert listed. It says not invert listed, but it does not work. This entire page is fucked. Well, might as well just turn it off, just to see. Wait, bro, what is happening now? This page is loading slowly. God damn. Wow, that is astonishing. This entire browser is just getting fucked somehow. Yep. Alright, so I can create a new application. First, I'm going to say OIDC YouTube, and then I'm going to add in slug, which also ends with YouTube. Group, nah, I'm just going. So I haven't set the provider yet. So with this, alright, let's click on create. So now, wait, hold on. Let me. There is actually an option called create with wizard. So this is really convenient. So first we're going to create this like this, YouTube. With this wizard, now everything just goes faster. There you go. Wait, hold on. I need to. Yep. So that's the name. So group is optional now. I'm just going to press on next. Next up is I want to create a new provider. So I'm going to press in this using this OpenIDConnect option here. Next, I'm going to say provider for Axum, OIDC, or YouTube. The flow is authentication flow. The object is explicit content. The client type is sorry about that. If you click on confidential, then you can see that there is client ID and client secret. But if you click on public, then there's only client ID. So I can copy this. The redirect is I'm going to set it to HTTP localhost 8000 auth callback. So this was going to be the callback that we will going to be created later on. Next is signing key. Signing key is self-signed authentic certificate. Well, I'm just going to leave it there. I think that's pretty much about it. So we're good. Okay, so let's just so here by default, Authentik enables us with 4 of these scopes, so that's fine. Let's submit, and your application is done. So after that, with this, everything's done, and here is your client ID. So now you would need to assign it to your end variable. First is the client ID, which is this entire long string right here. Redirect URL, we're going to HTTP localhost 8000 callback, auth callback. Remember that this auth callback here, you don't have the trailing slash at the end. You have to leave it there. You have to leave it without trailing slash at the end. Next is the issuer URL. So you can go here and you can have a look at these options here. But the issuer URL here is, if I remember correctly, wait, where is it? Authentik issuer URL. So the issuer URL is Wait, why didn't? Oh, okay, so if I remember correctly, it's actually here. Oh, okay, so it is here. Here is the configuration issue. So this is the issue URL. So you have to put it here, right? Awesome. So now I need to implement the callback route now. So I need to implement the callback.rs. I'm going to mount it to the module group. All right. Now with the callback, let's create it. Pub-fn callback. I'm going to return back router app state, and then async fn handler again, returning a web result again. And so this time, well, I'm just going to add in just the normal fake data, okay, okay, and then okay. Then finally new route / callback method router get handler, and that is done. So now I'm going to now from here I'm going to need to retrieve state and the code from the queries. I'm going to call in a struct callback query, and it will going to give me back a code and a state. This code here is the code verifier, and the state here is the CSRF token. So when we're retrieving these two, I'm adding these comments here so that you can understand, what we're dealing with. So if we go back to our documentation, let's just shrink this down, and here you can see that. Okay, so now you can see that here we can create a token response, exchange code, and we are getting the authorization code with some authorization code. So this, okay, this code is not verified. This is authorization code, auth code. So this is the auth code. So we are going to get the auth code, and we're going to do some token exchange. All right. So in order to do that, we're going to retrieve some data from the database. So from here, I'm going to call in state app state with this, and then, well, I'm just going to enlarge this because I don't need to look at that. And now the type is state app state. Cool. And also, of course, I'm going to need to get the query here, the callback query. So I'm going to get in the query, and then callback query. I'm going to delete this, and then there we go. So now I can get the code and the state from the callback query, and I also get the database. Next up is that, okay, so we need to retrieve some data from the we need to get the data from the database, and in order to do that, we need to create a model folder. This is the model, the base model, which is the model in a table, model.rs, like this. And then here I'm going to create a struct called pub struct OIDC state table, and it will have does it need it is nah, it does not need this. So I'm going to have this state table, and I'm going to I'm going to have some variables here. I'm going to have CSRF token, which is string, code verifier to string, and then finally nonce is also a string. Cool. So I will use this table in order to query against the database. Right. So now I'm going to use that table. I'm going to I'm going to write in a first is equal x query as. So the first parameter we're going to be the model that we've just provided. That is the OIDC OIDC state table, which we need to import, but since we're in the macro, we can't do that. OIDC state table, like that. Alright, so now comes the, now we're coming for the SQL code. Wait, I need to format this a little bit better for the better. So I'm going to go for select star from OIDC state. Field is private. What does that mean? Limit 1. Field is private. Oh yeah, I forgot. Pop. So does this work? Execute. Fetch. Fetch 1. Executor db dot await question mark. Let OIDC state table equals to this. Fill in the fields, and it seems like it works. Wait, hold on. What is happening? Why is it? Okay, so it seems like this SQL code works, and there's no error. And now I can limit 1. Well, I should add in where CSRF token. Wait, hold on. Is this actually the correct code? So the authorization code is the code. You can exchange it for the access token and ID token. So we can get the. Wait, hold on. So we are going to set CSR token equals to $1 if I remember correctly, but then we don't have the CSR token yet. If I remember correctly, this isn't. Wait, hold on a second. Okay, so I forgot. So, okay, so I was correct that this auth code is actually for the authorization code here. So the code from the query we're going to provide it here. And what we're doing here is that so we should search with the state. Yeah, so here is the state. We're going to use the state, and we're going to search it with the CSR token here. So I'm going to provide in one parameter, that is the state, and there we go. So it is working now, but the actual, or I should say, well, I should change it a little bit. This should be a select star from. This should be delete. This should be delete from OIDC state where CSR token returning star, like that. All right, so it works. So what I'm doing here is that I am consuming the I'm consuming whatever data that, whatever role that, the CSR token is equal to the state that, that we have provided upon here. So after that, we have the CSRF token, we have the code verifier and the nonce. So from here, I'm going to write exactly like on the documentation. I'm going to declare token, let token response equals to OIDC, and then we're going to exchange code. Now, exchange code. It needs the authorization code, which we're going to create, and it's going to be retrieved from the code. Next up is set pkce verify, which we have the code verifier here. It accepts a pixie code verifier, so I need to construct that. Pixie code verifier new pixie code verifier. And then finally, we're going to make a request to the identity server with async HTTP client. And then from there, I'm going to await and then propagate the error. Now here comes the error. Now here comes what is the very long error type. It returns back an error type called request token error, and inside there it is request error and then standard error response and something like that. But what the error actually looks like is that it looks like this. I'm going to call in error called request token error, and then I'm going to call it request token, and it is coming from this error. It is coming from standard token error. Is it? Wait, hold on. It is standard. It is request token error, and then request token error, and then okay, request token error, and it accepts in an error. So this error here is standard error response. It goes with request error and then standard error response. Cool. So that means that we have a pair of error types. That is OpenIDConnect request error. Then it requires wait. So is it? Hold on. Is it standard token response and then async HTTP flat error like this? Okay, so this guy accepts in two error types. Well, this is the part that I don't really like about Rust, is that when there's a library that uses too much generic for error types, and then the entire thing just becomes it looks exactly like this. So alright, so I might as well just try to copy this and then put it here. There we go. So we have request error, standard error response. Wait, hold on. Is it actually just async HTTP client error? Is it like this? No, it expects two guys. It expects two error types. Hold on, let me have a look. So the request token error is actually coming from, okay, so the first guy is actually async HTTP client error actually, and then the second is actually just standard error response, and then in there we have core error response type. Wait, what? Core error response type. If there exists one, in which I don't understand why this does not exist. Okay, there we go. Okay, so it seems like I need to emit some error. Which also doing like this. I'm going to copy this, put it inside some scope, and then there we go. Not bad request though, but it's internal error. Internal error. And then I'm going to write something like the authentication. Something wrong with the authentication mechanism. There we go. So with that error is gone, let's just move on to the next part. So if I have a look over to the docs, you can see that okay, I can go ahead and get the ID token. then I can go ahead and get the claims, and from the claims I can, but first I can, I have to check for the access token hash. After checking the hash, I can get the user info here. So from there, I can, first I'm going to need to get the ID token. Let ID token to token response, and then ID token, and then I'm going to do an OKR else, or OKR, and then I'm just going to say error, missing token, in which I need to create this error type. I'm going to import error, and then I'm going to make this error type missing token error. Cool. Now I can go for the internal errors. That is error. This is request token error, and then this guy has missing token error. I'm just putting E here. Yep, I don't need this this E at the end. There we go. Now I can go for internal error. Missing token. The ID token cannot be retrieved. Please check the IDP settings. Great. Great. From there, oh, okay. E is not found in the scope. Okay. Well, might as well just do it like this. All right. So that error is done. Now we move on to getting the claims. Claims is equal to ID token claims, and then we need the verifier. So the verifier here is actually, it's not the code verifier, it's the ID token verifier. Oh, okay. So it comes from here. OIDC code verifier, ID token verifier. Yeah. So here I'm going to make a reference, and then I'm just going to leave it there. Now we move on to the nonce. I'm going to set in the nonce, new from the nonce. This is going to be a reference because it expects a reference to a nonce. With this, the claims now, it is a result. So now we need to put in another question mark, and then we have to deal with the ID token claims. So what this ID token claims here is that it returns back for us a claims verification error. Cool. So now I can add it now. I can call it claims verification error. There we go. Claims. It is coming from claims verification error. Adding a new type. Emit some error. Claims verification error. E, and then finally web internal error. Claims verification error, and the error here is that the claims cannot be verified. Cool. So that is with that error. So with the claims, we can now do some checks beforehand. That is, we need to do some checking the access token hash to ensure that the access token is not is not for another user. So I'm just going to copy and pasting this in. So now I'm going to import this in. Access token hash, no method name access token hash, and then there are two question marks there. First is the signing error, which we're going to deal with that. Signing, error. This one 0. Request token error. Yeah. Should also put this here also 0. The first element in a tuple. This is signing. And then it is going to be converted from signing error from OpenIDConnect. There we go. I'm going to add in an extra error type. Wait, hold on. I don't even need all these. I can pretty much just use this E right here. Yeah, there we go. There we go. So I only need this to be like this. Put it inside a scope. And then we're going to put it as an internal error. Wait, hold on. Huh, okay. Well, my VS Code is lagging though. That's weird. My VS Code actually is falling down. Maybe signing error. Signing error. Cannot sign. I'm just going to put it like that. Cannot sign. Okay, so with that's done. And now from here I'm going to write in error type token mismatch, or like access token mismatch. Cool. I'm going to use this over here at the error section. I'm going to add in a new error type, access token mismatch, and I need to add a new error type here. This is going to be an error type, and it says access token with an access token hash does not match signed access token. Okay, cool. Now I'm going to also make it as an internal error type. So access token mismatch. Then I'm going to say the access tokens are incorrect. There we go. So with that is done, now we can actually get the user info. Let user info equals to equals to OIDC.userinfo. There we go. We need to provide in the access token, which the access token coming from token response.access token, and then we're going to and then we're going to set it to on, because if you set it like this, it says that it expects a reference to it. So I'm going to set it to on, so that it just moves the object. Expected subject, well, I can set it to none, because if you look at this example right here. Wait, hold on. He doesn't. Oh, okay. So there you go. He set it to on, and he also set it to none. So here we're seeing that. Okay, that is the result. And of course, with this, I need to actually get to the user info request, and then I need to get the request async HTTP client. And from there, I'm going to do another await, and then finally the error. So you can see that there is a lot of error handling here, because this is Rust. So first is the what here? Configuration error. So okay, so this is another error. Configuration error. Cool. Configuration error. Configuration error, like that. I also need some context. Configuration error. I'm going to cut off the error here before Clippy screams at me, and then it will coming from configuration error, coming from OpenIDConnect. Here I'm going to set the error parameter to E, and then set the error to just log out the error. And then this will also be internal error. This is configuration error. Your your IDP configuration has issues. There we go. Expected semicolon. There we go. Now we only need to handle this guy. So this guy is a user info error. All right. So cool. Another error. This is the last one. User info error. So this is coming from user info error, and inside there it is async HTTP client error. So that error is done. Type annotation needed. Yeah, sure, because it is core user info claim. Yeah, there we go. So that works. Now I need to add in a new error type. This is the final one. So this is also I'm going to do the same error E, and then web internal error, or more like this is bad request. User info error, cannot get user info from the IDP. Cool. So from there, and our code is working fine. So now with this you can actually log out the user info right here, because the user info actually does support serialize, so that you can just spit it out. Login successfully, I suppose. And there you go. So that is our callback and our login. And our login routes are all implemented. Alright, so let's mount this into a single route folder. Pop fn routes. This is this returning router app state. And this will create a new router, new route. Oh wait, nah. This should be nest, auth, and then router, new route. Nah, it's merge from first the login route, and then merge the callback route. There we go. So here you can see the self-controller, callback, and login. I honestly I don't want this to be looking like this. Can I make it cleaner? I don't absolutely know. Maybe I should use something like pub use, and then it should be like this, so that everyone can just refer to this to this import as self-controller callback. Yeah. So cool. Now I have that. So here callback control. Can I make this? Nah, I can't do that. All right, cool. So so this I need to mount the routes into the main route. That is, I need to merge to auth routes. So does it work? It does work. Alright, cool. So it seems like things are working now. Let's just have a test run just to see how it works. First I'm going to need to cargo run. Alright, so after that is done, I'm going to go to localhost 8000 and I'm going to go to auth login. And then it says database error because something value too long for type parameter varying type parameter varying 20. Okay, so it is too long. All right, I understand that. So I might have to set this to 30, I suppose. Well, maybe 50. Well, send 50 just in case. All right, so I need to revert the migration and reset it. So SQLX database, no, SQLX migrate revert, and then run. All right, let's just test this out again. So that is a correct log. Cargo run. Login. Go for this again. Very too long for type character. Well, I might as well just use text at this point. Well, all of them are going to become text. Yep, text. All right, SQLX migrate revert app. Oh, I forgot. Migrate run, and then and then cargo run again. Alright, it is working. Go for this again. There you see. You see that here is our authentication prompt. It says that redirecting to Axum OIDC YouTube. You're about to sign in into here, and then it requires email address and general profile information. If I click on continue, and then there you go. You can see that we have various fields that coming from the user info. First the email verified, given name, nickname, preferred, and then the sub. The sub here is the ID of your identity provider. So yeah, so with that, things our Pixie flow is done. Now next up is so this assumes that your app is here, that your backend is here. You can actually do some, well, since you already have the user data already, you can actually do all sorts of things with the user data. You can start within the database if you wanted to. You can store extra information, something like that. But normally in practice, the Pixie flow should be implemented in the client, and then your API only access to what I should say, only access to the IDP through the access token that the client has provided me. So I'll just going to create another module called I'm just going to call it user/mod.rs. It will going to be mod user here. So from this user, I'm going to create a control folder, of course. /mod.rs. So here in this controller, I'm going to add in a controller called profile, in which it gets the user info, just like in which it gets the user info from the access token that the client provides us. So I can just go for naming the file profile.rs, export it to publicly, and now I can, but first I need to create a model here, model/mod.rs. Alright, cool. So now with this now I'm going to write a model that authenticates the user, that authenticates the user, or it's sort of like a middleware, but you can write an extractor for it. So here I'm going to write in pub struct login user, which encapsulates one variable called core user info claims, like this, and then I'm going to implement from request for this, or like from request parts. But then I need support for type header. So let's just go to the Axum docs and see Axum type header. There we go. It's in Axum. Is it in Axum extract? If I remember correctly, it's in Axum. It is in Axum extra. Axum extra. So in Axum extra, we have support for, where's the docs? Feature flags. There we go. Type header. All right. So we need to add in the Axum extra grid. It will going to be going into here. Hold on, where's Axum? Ah, okay, there we go. Axum extra. Version features, we're going to be type header. It says it cannot find type header. Oh, type header with there we go. Oh yeah, it has to be like this. Yep, there it goes. Right, version 0.9.1 type header. All right, cool. I'm just going to wait for it to import. Oh, okay, it has imported successfully. Okay, cool. Import from request for logged in user, and this from request I'm going to pass in the app state here. And this guy has type rejection equals to error. And this error needs to be imported from crate. What is this? No trait implemented. Oh yeah, because I need to implement the async fn from request function, and it returns back a result self, and then self rejection. There we go. I'm gonna set it to do, and this guy will what the fuck is this? Tap smooth focus, bro. That's whack as fuck. All right, so here, and we're going to take in a request. Coming from Axum extra, coming from Axum request, and then the state. We're going to be app state. There you go. So it seems like, oh yeah, finally I need to add in async. There you go. The errors is gone. Nice. So now from here, I can write in the mechanism for getting the authorization header. So from there I can go for let first type header from request, and then request state. Obviously it works. I'm going to put it like this. This type header we're going to be taking from authorization extra header. Yep. And then finally we have error. There we go. And now I'm going to have a test variable just to see what is its type. So I can destructure from the type header, and I can destructure from the authorization header. And is this authorization header? Yeah, it does provide me with the I'm just going to call it header, so that this is the bearer header. So here we have the bearer header. I should say bearer. Cool. So it requires us to actually handle this type header rejection. Cool. Now I have to go for the error, and then I'm going for the error type rejection header, type header rejection, and then paste it in the same. So with that, our error is being handled. Adding another new error. Now finally, so with this I'm going to set in bad request, because this means that header rejected. The header is rejected. The header is invalid. Okay, so well, it's these are not the sort of error types that you would add to your production code, but then this is pretty much just sort of like a demonstration for you, just for you to understand how things work. So with that, I finally got the bearer, and then now at this point I can get the token, the access token, which is equal to bearer dot token. And what is this type? Reference to string. Awesome. Okay, cool. That is fine. So from there, I can get the user info by let user info, and we're going to do this exactly like this is the same like in the callback in the controller. So now I have the user info, state dot OIDC dot user info, and I need to provide in the access token, which again I'm going to put it like this: access token new. There we go. Token found string reference to stir. Now I have the access token. Access token expect subject none. Or should I just no? I should just put in the expected subject here, because we didn't have the information of the subject yet. So from this we have the user info, and then what we need to do is wait, hold on. User info. So then we can wait. Hold on. So this variable is a result. Using the request async HTTP client, and then .await, and then .question. So that now we can now have core user info claims. So with this core user info claims, we can now return back to our struct with the user info, and that's pretty much it. So this is the authentication code. It's pretty much just like this. And then we're going to mount it to, we're going to use in our profile. That is pub fn profile returns back a router app state, and then inside we have async handler. We have async fn handler, and then we have web result. And with this, we can retrieve the state app state, destructure, state app state, and then we were going to use that logged in user that we've just created. Here inside we have user, and we have logged in user. So what this means is that when I put in this struct right here, this entire route automatically becomes authenticated route. And when it is authenticated, it assumes that if authenticated, then you would have this user info claims, which you can now freely use, and which is really nice. And now from here I can just say web okay profile get profile success. And there we go. Get profile success, and then we're going to put in the user, and this we're going to be living at route profile get handler, and there you go. So now we have this profile route here. Let's just mount this to the root module. I'm just going to use pub fn routes, returning back a router from Axum app state, and then we have router new nest. I'm going to nest it inside the user route, and then we're going to merge it. New merge, and then the profile route. There we go. I'm going to pub use this so that people can just use self-controller and then profile, which is much cleaner. And so with that, I need to mount it to to this. I need to mount this to the main part, to the main router. So after I've mounted it, now I need to add in support for Swagger UI. So I need Swagger Utopa. So this is the Swagger Utopa OpenAPI. So what this crate does is that it provides you with a bunch of derived macros, so that from that derived macro, it will generate an open API, an open API JSON file, so that it can be served with Swagger UI. So here you can go for the examples. If I go for the example simple Axum here, and then you can see that, okay, so this is a very basic path right here, but then I should go for the to the Axum to the Axum. Axum does a really good job at making an example that is, you can actually add in security add-on, so that you can add in the security add-on, so that you can modify it. So here it provides a security scheme example, but we're going to be changing it into OpenIDConnect, so that we are effectively sort of like creating a client that supports OpenIDConnect, and you don't have to like what should I say? And you don't have to like write an entirely front end just to test out the OpenIDConnect, just to see if it works or not. Alright, so let's define this by creating a new file called OpenID OpenAPI.rs. This will going to be put in here. Cool, but now I need to add in this script, docs, and now it is going to be utopa equals to version. Now we're going to wait, and now finally we need swagger utopa. Swagger utopa. There we go. Utopa swagger on UI. There we go. We need to add support for Axum for this. It does not have features for Axum. So it seems like this guy supports for Axum. There we go. Cool. Now we can fix in the versions. From there, we're going to follow the examples. So from here, you can follow the example, and you can see that here we're going to mount in the Swagger UI URL at API docs, and then finally API doc.openAPI. Cool. So now we need to write in the API doc first. So now we have struct API doc. I need to make this public. So first I'm going to need to make this derived OpenAPI, and then from there I'm going to use OpenAPI. There, like that. And I only needed the modifiers security add-on here, like here. Modifiers, reference to security add-on, and I can add it right here. I need to add in struct security add-on like this, and then it spits out an error because it needs the security add-on to implement modify for security add-on, and then I'm going to put, and then we're going to implement this modify function. From there, I'm going to say if let some components equals to OpenAPI.components.smute, and then here you can see that we can go for components.security scheme, And here in the security scheme, I can go for, I can say that OpenID Connect, so that later on I have to add it in the so that later on it will has a name. So here we add a name, and then finally we have a security scheme. So what are the security schemes? Well, there are multiple security schemes, but one of them is OpenIDConnect. So I can just write in security scheme and then OpenIDConnect. There you can see. So here in the OpenIDConnect, it expects an OpenIDConnect struct, and then I can just add in an OpenIDConnect struct. And now here you can see that I can create with new, and with new here, it expects in an issuer URL like this. So it expects an issuer URL, but here in this case it needs more than that. It needs it actually needs the, wait, hold on. I have to code in order to explain this. So it needs one thing, and then it needs the issuer URL, and then it will go for the dot well known / configuration. If that is correct, then if that is correct, I do not remember if that is correct or not. So I need to have a look over that. So the issue URL here, I can just paste it here, and then I just go for well known dot well known, and then configuration not found. I don't even remember what is this. Well known OpenIDConnect well known endpoint. So I'll just have a look over this. It's the well known endpoint. Wait, oh no, okay. OpenIDConnect discovery. Oh yeah. So this does states that. Okay, so it is dot well known OpenID configuration. Okay, so cool. So it needs to be like this. Well known OpenID configuration. It expects one parameter. Yes, of course, I know. Let me have a look at the NV. So the issue URL already has a trading slash over here, so I only needed it to be in a one like this. One parameter is going to be issue URL. There we go. Doesn't implement display. Well, that's not an issue, because I'm just going to make it 2-string, and there we go. Okay, I can just dereference it. Nice. All right, so I can just dereference it and make it well known. So I now have the security add-on. Now I needed to mount it into my Swagger. I need to merge it into Swagger, into our application. So now I need to merge it somewhere here. Merge, and then Swagger UI new. It will going to be living at docs dot URL docs, and then dot URL. It will going to be at the exact same like what the example is currently providing for you, / API docs open API .json, and then finally the open API will going to be API doc open API. Finally, we're going to do we have to do anything else? Maybe that's just it. So it is going to be hold on, API doc import. Do we have to set a path? No path. Okay, there we go. So now we have the docs route. Let's just have a test to see if it appears. And then next we're going to actually write out the API docs for the profile. So okay, so it's currently working. Okay, so I need to do some things with the profile route. I need to actually set in the path like this. So here It's as simple as doing path like this, and then it's going to be first the method get the path is equal to slash user slash profile malform attribute path. Wait, hold on. Let me just have a look. Malform path attribute input slash user slash profile. What's wrong with that? Utoi path macro. Yep, path in utoi path. There we go. We need to go scroll through the. Alright, first we have the path. The operation first it is get, and then next we have the path, and then we have the path. Then we have path file must be path equals to file. What does that even mean? Must be a form path. Let's just see what the examples has providing for us. So here are the responses. Let's just see the path operation. Yeah, path attribute output. What? Oh, okay. So I have to refer it directly. Okay, so I have the path, and then surely I need to see for this the security. So list of the security requirements. So here we have security requirements. We talk about path. Security. All right. So I'll just scroll down to see the security. Right, there we go. So security format. Okay, so I can just add in something like this. I can just add in OpenIDConnect, and then it's equal to whatever this is. So cool. Add in security, which is of OpenIDConnect equals to like this. Is this correct? I didn't see it does any correct for something for me, which is real suspicious. Is this correct? Security name of the security requirements. Actix extra security requirements, security schema. Security scheme. So we can have a look at the hold on. Is it in the examples? To do search query responses, search to dos, responses create to do. No. So it does not require any security, isn't it? Oh, okay. So here we go. Security make optional authentication. Okay, so cool. So now I can just do it like this, and then I can mount it to the path, which I need to make it pub use, pub mod, controller, pub use. Alright, so I need to mount it into the OpenAPI. Now we can need to have the path right here. The paths here, like this, and then we are going to have a path as user, and then profile, like this. Save, and then it says resolve, and yeah, of course, I need to import in this thing right here. Use create controller. There we go. Path profile. Failed to use resolve. Oh yeah. Use path profile. What do you mean? Nah, I think I'll just try to refer it. Use create user controller profile path profile. That does not work. You're lying. Path profile failed to resolve undeclared crate. Consider important struct. So I need to fix something there. In which I can go for the profile mod and then pub mod. Pub mod control. Yeah. Path profile, and then from here I can go for and I can use create user path profile. It didn't even work. Use create user path profile. Yeah, but that's what I just did. User profile, modifiers, routes. Yeah, the routes is here. Profile. Yeah, but I mean the profile is here. And something's wrong. Use utopa path. Path is ambiguous because name conflict with the built-in attribute soft.path. Oh, okay, cool. Understand that. Understandable. Utopa path. So here I'm still encountering this error. Undeclared crate. Undeclared crate. User crate is clearly declared. Consider using the struct through its public root export. Use create user. Yeah, but bro, that's what I just did. Bro, I'm struggling, man. What is this? Modifiers. Oh yeah. Should I add in the tags? I don't think I need the tags for that. To do path users. Well, maybe I just add in user controller. Wait, no. Okay, no. It's actually controller. There we go. No way. Preuse use profile. That means that I'd only need to use profile like this. Okay, there we go. Well, I've been thinking too much, but okay, thank God. So if I put it like this, then well, it still works. But if I put it like this, then I need user controller profile or a profile like this. Oh nah. Okay, well that is weird. I only need to use create user. Okay, so here I've mounted the profile path. Right, let's start this application. Cool. When I go here, docs. There we go. Now I have this user profile, but I currently don't have the authentication right here. It's because I don't have the schema here, because I need to have the components in order to actually make it appear anything. So I might as well just make some components like so. Cargo run. Now I have the components. Now will it work? Localhost 8000. No docs. Oh yeah, because it's HTTPS. I'm just going to click here, go for docs. Well, no authentication. All right. So I need to add at least one component here in order for it to work. So now I need to add something here in order to make it work. Well, I'm just going to add something, very test struct test in which it has nothing, and then it implements to schema. There we go, and then proc macro divide option unwrap. Now I'm just going to add it like right there, and then I'm going to add in components. I'm going to add in test, just like that. Expect the attribute, expect schema. Oh yeah, I need schema. Let me check the docs. Component schemas. Alright, schemas. There we go. So I mean, if I remember correctly, it requires at least the schema field to exist. Nope, not working. Oh, schemas test. Okay, there we go. You can see that, at least you have to add something there, right, in order to have this authorized. But then when you click this authorize here, you can see that you have loads of options there that you can, do with, that you can, use with use with the identity server. So here we have the client ID. If I use the client ID here, I'm going to paste it here. I'm going to need OpenID, email, profile, offline access, and click on authorize. It will fail because I haven't added the redirect URL supported here. So I need to add in, edit. So because Swagger has its own redirect URI, you have to add it into your provider. So provider for Axum, and then you can go for the redirect. Where's the redirect? Oh, okay, the redirect. Okay, so I have added another one. HTTP localhost 8000, and then wildcard. And then wildcard. Yep. Update that, and then finally, if I do this again, authorize. Oh wait, nah. It currently it does not work. It does not want to work somehow. All right, let's do this again. OpenID authorize. Missing redirect URI, in which I need to do something again. Edit. Edit. No, this is the app. Provider. Close. Edit. Localhost. Docs. // update. Try this again. There's something. Okay, so if I click on this, and then it says, oh, wait, hold on. Let me see the. Okay, so there we go. You can see that here we have the. Here you can look at the path. You can see that it is trying to calling out HTTP localhost 8000 docs, and then add OAuth to redirect HTML, something like that, right there. Okay. So why does it not working? Localhost docs. Should it be redirect URI docs? Here they go. OAuth to redirect UI.html. Talks like this. Do you want it like this? Okay, there we go. So after adding that, it says requires the following permission, and I click on continue, and there you go. So now when you try out this get user profile, try it out, execute, then you can see that get user success, which is nice. You can get the user now, but then if you try to log out, then after this you try it out again, execute again, and then it says the header is rejected. So there you can see that if I add in this guy right here, but then if I add in all the scopes, I want all access to these. I click on authorize. It consents again. It says I want email address, general profile, and then access to request new tokens. I click on continue, and from here I can click on execute, and then there you go. You get full info. So this is actually how OpenIDConnect's actually being implemented. That in this Rust code you only need these section from the user to the profile controller, and then you only need it. You only need the model, the logged in user model, and then the profile, which is pretty much this part. And then all of the OpenIDConnect authentication were going to be performed on the client side. And you might be wondering, okay, so what will these codes are going to do? Well, these are pretty much just for demonstration purposes. So yeah, that is how you authenticate with OpenIDConnect. All right, so let's just try this thing once again. Docs, auth, login, consent, and then there you go. Login successfully with your data. And that is how you do all these things. All this code we're going to commit to GitHub. I might as well just commit this straight into GitHub right now. First, I need to delete this down Seagull file, and then because there's no return back now. And so next up is that I need to add in a git ignore. I'm going to ignore the end file. It's sort of like a good practice to do so. Even though these guys right here only works on my local machine, but it's a good practice to not commit the original .env file onto the version control. So I have this sample, and I'm going to paste it, which looks exactly the same, but I will omit this out, this string, this path, there you go, and I only leave out this localhost right here. So alright, so let's commit this. I'm going to use my app at a repository. This app is called Tower, which is really nice, and I really like using it. So Axum OIDC YouTube, repository. Let's just see. Okay, there are a lot of things because it seems like I haven't ignored the data. I should ignore the data. Git ignore. Add to git ignore. Don't say. Git ignore data / data. There we go. So so I only have these guys right here. So I'm going to be staging this all, and I'm going to say feed initial commit. I'm going to push this for public, and click on publish. Wait for a while for GitHub to post, and then wait. I need to go to your repository, and it seems like it has submitted successfully. There you go. See, it's there. You can get to you can go into this repository and then see for yourself. All right, that's it for this video. I hope you understand something, and I'll see you in another video. if I do have time making all these